Samantha Irvin shoots on leaving WWE, Bloodline Spoilers, WWE Reject TNA, and NXT Halloween Havoc highlights, and more. I'm Luke Owen and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Get exclusive bonus videos over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk.
I can always tell something big has happened in the world of wrestling when I wake up and I have a bunch of Instagram DMs from you fine folk letting me know that something big has happened in the world of wrestling. Or Limp Bizkit have dropped a new dope track, it's usually one of the two. But on Sunday morning, my DMs weren't filled with the news that the Hardys had won the TNA tag titles, or that Joe Hendry again failed to capture the TNA championship, or even that JBL showed up at Bound for Glory, and instead, my inbox was flooded with the trailer for a new documentary about the greatest professional wrestler to ever lace up a pair of boots and 1/3 of the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, Raven. The link for the trailer can be found in the video description of this episode, and I suggest that you all go and watch it because it's got a great lineup of interviewees. Can anyone else hear that? Can anyone? No, it can't be. No, it wouldn't be that. No, it's gone now. No, maybe it's just me. Odd. Anyway, maybe these interviewees will do some shooting on their wrestling careers. And speaking of shooting, last Monday the wrestling world was shocked upon learning the news that Samantha Irvin, the beloved WWE ring announcer, arguably the best since The Fink, was stepping away from WWE. Irvin herself revealed that this was something that had been in the works for a few months, and it was reported that she and WWE could not come to terms with her wanting to do work outside of WWE, like recording music. She really could have just done all of the wrestlers' themes. It's not like anyone likes Def Rebel. She also shut down the idea that she'd be going to All Elite Wrestling, as her IRL husband Ricochet decided not to re-sign with WWE and signed with AEW in the summer. For all intents and purposes, Samantha Irvin was stepping away from wrestling altogether, which means she's now free to simply speak her mind and call out weird Twitter trolls for being weird Twitter trolls. To sum up all of the following, she tweeted, "I'm so glad I don't have a boss anymore, so I can say this, shut the up." It all began when she replied to a comment on Instagram revealing among the reasons she left WWE was because she actually didn't like ring announcing. She said, "I'm serious. Announcing was only supposed to be my way in. I wanted to manage, maybe even become general manager one day, but WWE saw no other future for me besides announcer. I love watching the action, but I didn't like being an announcer." This, of course, inevitably led to some of the more tribalistic fans to decree that Irvin hated working for WWE and was ungrateful for her time there. Irvin responded by saying that she did love WWE and had a great time working there, but argued that she could have done more than just ring announcing, which was not her passion. She added in one reply, "The fact that people are so upset that I don't want to announce shows me I make the right decision because it was only a role I did, not who I am." Interestingly, she revealed that she was doing interviews in NXT, but was only called up to be the ring announcer for SmackDown because they fired Greg Hamilton. From there, she says that WWE saw no other role for her other than being a ring announcer. In one series of replies, she reveals that she had hoped the Logan Paul angle leading to Ricochet's SummerSlam match would have led to more opportunities. She wrote, "I seriously was hoping it was a test. That's why I turned the Viola Davis on as soon as the camera was on me, crying emoji. I've always respected kayfabe this entire time in hopes of moving into the story, but wasn't meant to be, and that is okay." She also added, "I would have loved to have managed Ricochet, of course, but I also wouldn't have minded learning commentary first. I was also interested in writing, and I wanted to age in the company, become a trusted figure, and eventually do character work." While some people have pointed to Ricochet leaving as her reason for leaving, Irvin denies this to be the case. However, she did highlight in another Instagram comment, "My husband is a millionaire, so yes, I don't have to do a job I don't like anymore." And while she was very praising of her time in WWE, she did take a few digs in, saying that the company never saw anything in her husband, which is one of the reasons he left. She posted in a reply, when he was at WWE, all he ever heard was that he was a jobber or he was in catering. Now, he's actually paid well to put on matches he likes. He is doing great and I'm really proud of him. Also revealing that she was at the Collision show over the weekend. Gee, I hope that catering thing's not about us putting him in catering all the time on 3 counts. Irvin's tweets and replies were never directed at WWE or anyone within WWE, and more the fans who treated her and her husband poorly online. She replied to someone saying F her for leaving with F everyone who harassed my husband and said I was leaving for AEW actually. She reiterated she would not be going to All Elite Wrestling. In a very sweet moment, Ebo of WrestlePurist suggested that Irvin get all of these FUs out of her system, then go on a blocking spree, to which Irvin replied, I've been holding them in for so long. If this is my only heel turn I'll get, I gotta go hard. What do you make of Irvin's comments? Do you think that WWE fumbled a potential opportunity to use her in more roles than just being a ring announcer? Let me know in the comments down below. It means Irvin won't be around to see the next chapter of the Bloodline story, which I think is now in the bottom of the 9th with bases loaded and 40 yards from the end zone. Sports! I saw one XFL game back in 2001. I do know what I'm talking about. Last Friday saw WWE do a double taping of SmackDown, with the second episode to air this coming Friday, as the company will be flying over to Saudi Arabia for Crown Jewel. So if you want to avoid the spoilers for this week's SmackDown, I would suggest skipping ahead to our next news item. There's timestamps in the video description or a time code on screen right here. The show is reportedly built around the original Bloodline getting back together, as they will be having a trios match at Crown Jewel against 3 members of Solo's Bloodline faction. In an in-ring segment, Jay says the family can only get back together and work together if Roman acknowledges him as an equal and not just his right-hand man. Roman then says yeet, and the 3 of them put their wands in the air. Worked Wrestling are also reporting that, as many expected, Sami Zayn will be reuniting with the OG Bloodline for a match at Survivor Series. Welcome back to those who skipped over that story. I can't believe that Kenny Omega's going to team with Roman Reigns either. But before we get into more of today's wrestling news, here's a word from Turbo. I've written here Jake, but it's Turbo Jack. From Turbo Jack about how you can, oh man, I'm getting this wrong. Just watch the video, just watch the Patreon shoutouts.
I made his wrestler Turbo Jack from a time when match stipulations meant something. Like all-American hero Turbo Jack being a foreigner. Not these days where you CM Punk character work bullshit. I'm talking classic matches like Eric Young versus Tracy Brooks in a bikini contest from 2006 TNA. Join patreon.com/WrestleTalk to watch Luke and Ollie review that historic match. Like these fine folk right here can. He can last Sean Fur longer than you in the ring. Starbucks, Stephen Costa, the last main event, Malcolm. Shield Maiden, the Zornice, the British Bulldog, Philip Boy J. Smith Jr., the Roller Coaster, Robert Acosta, and Yo Adrian! Rocky, haven't seen the movie. Go to patreon.com/WrestleTalk right now to get your own shout out and loads of bonus videos.
One of the odder didn't have that on my 2024 bingo card has been the rather fruitful relationship between WWE and TNA, which has seen an increase in interest for total non-stop action, leading to great ticket sales for their recent Bound for Glory pay-per-view. However, it might not all be flowers and roses. During this year's Bound for Glory, it was announced that Rhino and the late Bob Ryder would be going into the TNA Hall of Fame. Rhino is a former NWA World Champion in TNA, and Ryder was a day one guy in the company until his untimely passing in 2020. He was called the heart and soul of the promotion. But they were not the only names discussed, as Fightful Select are reporting that TNA were also interested in inducting Monty Brown and AJ Styles into their Hall of Fame, the latter of which is currently under contract with WWE. Styles is perhaps best known for his time in TNA as one of the innovators of the company, as well as one of its most recognized faces. However, according to Fightful Select, the possibility of AJ Styles was broached with WWE, who passed on the opportunity. TNA don't give Sean Ross Sapp a reason as to why, but figure it's because Styles is currently out with an injury. I'm not sure how that would stop someone from getting inducted into a Hall of Fame, but That's just me. Fightful Select also added there were hopes that Styles would be open to wrestling in TNA as well, but we're not sure if that was ever discussed. Speaking of TNA, and there's reports coming out from their recent TV tapings that El Hijo del Vikingo suffered an injury after doing a corkscrew to the outside on Trent 7. Those there reported that the referee held up the dreaded X, and video footage from fans was put online of Vikingo being stretchered out of the building. He had just returned from a torn meniscus and ruptured ligament that had kept him on the shelf for 7 months, and he is sadly not alone from the tapings, as Chris Bay was also stretchered out of the building and put in a neck brace following a clash of head spot with the Hardys while he was teaming with Ace Austin, wishing them both a speedy recovery. Lastly for today, and let's take a quick look at the highlights from last night's rather good NXT Halloween Havoc. The show saw Tony D'Angelo retain his North American Championship against Obafemi due to lots of interference from the family, and Ridge Holland beat Andre Chase in an ambulance match. Julia and Stephanie Vaquer teamed together to beat Cora Jade and NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez, and after the match they were all watched over by the Wall brother, Zarya, the former Delta, who made her debut on last week's NXT. She also made her presence known after Fallon Henley won the Women's North American Championship from Kalani Jordan, who had previously beaten Jasmine Nix and JC Jane as part of a gauntlet. Also on the show, William Regal made an appearance to announce he'll be in the corner of Lexis King against his son Charlie Dempsey. He is so turning on King to side with Dempsey. But it was the show's main event that seemed to cause the most ire online. Trick Williams retained his NXT Championship against Ethan Page in a Devil's Playground match, so far so fine, and after it was over was attacked by Ridge Holland. Page and Holland then worked together to beat up Trick before Bully Ray, hot off his worst match of the year contender at Maple Leaf Pro against the former Jinder Mahal, made the save for Trick Williams. The angle was mocked heavily on social media, with Steve here of Going In Raw asking out loud, "What in the TNA is happening?" Of course, this is being done as NXT are set to run the ECW arena for their head-to-head episode against AEW Dynamite, with the speculation being that episode will be headlined by Page and Holland versus Trick and Bubba Ray Dudley in a tag match. Earlier in the night, Ava announced that ECW legend Dawn Marie would be a special guest referee in a match between Lola Vice and Jada Parker on that same show. Now go and watch our latest episode of Tables, Lists and Shares, where our heroes chart the 10 best WWE champions of all time again, and I'm very sorry I kept getting that Patreon plug wrong.